Hi everyone! So I'm going to start off this video with sharing with you guys a really delicious smoothie juice. That's kind of how I like my smoothies most often, if not all the time, is when it's a smoothie juice, when it's a cross between a juice and a smoothie, more on the liquidy side, because hydration always feels better, always feels best. But you can probably tell by my mouth, what am I having? Something with berries, right? Because whenever your mouth is stained a certain color, especially blue or purple, you know it's coming from a berry. Okay guys, so here is the smoothie right here, the smoothie juice. It's really tasty. Oh, it's hitting the spot really well. I was watching some TannyRaw videos, and TannyRaw always does like a standard certain smoothie, and I did another attempt at it, but I twisted it up just a little bit this time, and it turned out really good. So what I did is I measured out 8 ounces of spinach, okay, 8 ounces of spinach, and 1 large Fuji apple. And what I did is I juiced that in my juicer. So here is the fiber, the pulp that's left over, okay? So that became a juice. Then I put it in my Vitamix, and then I added 2 frozen bananas, and 1 cup of frozen blueberries, and then 3 medjool dates, because I like things sweet, nice and sweet. And it turned out absolutely fantastic, people. Very tasty. Very tasty. Okay, you guys, so now we're gonna start the video, the whole point of this video here. Okay, what I wanted to talk about, and really get your guys' opinion on it too, because it's something I debate a lot and I look at it very closely. I wanted to talk about, what does a raw vegan diet mean to you? Not just raw veganism, but fruitarianism or veganism, just vegan, plant-based, whole foods. What does that mean to you? And when I say what does that mean to you, I mean specifically, what foods do you classify to be included in that diet, in that specific way of eating that you are wanting to follow. So for me, I classify raw veganism, the way I see someone eating raw vegan, is simply by just simply eating their natural way, because I don't like labeling. I don't like labeling either. I totally agree with Adriana from Clean Food Living. Her and I did a video collaboration a little bit ago. The videos are posted on my channel, and she's got her videos of our collaboration posted on her channel too. And one thing that she talked about was food labeling, that it's really good not to get into the labeling your diet and staying so strict in a certain box, so to say. I'm not saying that she said this, but I mean, I understand where she's coming from, and the way I understand that is, yeah, it's not good to label yourself, label your way of eating, and stay so strict within a box in that. I don't view eating healthy in that form. I don't view it in that form at all. The way I view raw veganism is simply by eating our natural way. So if we were eating our natural way, well, we would be out in nature. If we weren't in this highly civilized society that we're in, we would be out in nature and eating straight from the land, okay? Straight from the land. So that means the produce produce, and so that's those tropical fruits, that's all the fruits, that's all the leafy greens, that's the nuts and seeds, all the edible plants, okay, without cooking. Because if we were out in nature, you know what, the use of fire and cooking wouldn't really be present. And I don't think anybody would want to deal with that anyways. It's so much easier just to pick the delicious fruit straight from the tree and eat it right away. And because a lot of us, we all know we don't like to wait. We don't like to spend a lot of time trying to make a meal when we're hungry, okay? And we definitely wouldn't be processing our food in any way because we wouldn't have the electricity, we wouldn't have the utensils available. So we wouldn't be juicing, we wouldn't be blending, we wouldn't be using a dehydrator. I think we would be eating some dehydrated fruit and produce naturally by coming across it from like the sun naturally dehydrating the fruit, naturally dehydrating whatever edible food falls to the ground or is still hanging on the tree. That is possible. I believe that's possible. The reason why I bring this up is because I am so confused. Not so confused, but I can't make heads or tails of this because it seems like for each person, it's all up to you how you classify your way of eating, because there are so many raw vegans out there, and even long-term raw vegans that say they're raw vegan, but technically they're not raw vegan. They're including dried fruits, they're including powders, all kinds of powders. They eventually start including protein powder, and then they are including coconut oil, coconut butter, all these other types of butters. They're including all these different types of syrups. They're including all these different types of vinegars, even grains. I've seen raw vegans start eating or incorporate grains in their diet. They may not be cooking them, but they're soaking them or sprouting them and eating legumes, beans and legumes also, by soaking and sprouting them. So also in my eyes, a raw vegan diet doesn't include the grains. It doesn't include the grains because there are books out there from long-term health professionals who do talk about the damage that grains do to the body. I've never read any of the books or really have dove into that area of health yet, but I am aware of that. I am aware of that. And then of course you have the people who talk about low fat, and then there's people who talk about high fat. And I think in our natural way, I think we would be having higher fat, not low fat. Of course, I think it would fluctuate throughout the year. Of course, you'd probably have a section of the year or a section of time where you're just eating high fat, and then you'll go through a period where you're like eating no fat at all, and you're kind of just eating with the seasons as the seasons change. But definitely, I think we would be eating higher fat for sure. And so for me, it's just I get confused sometimes because when I see someone who says they're raw vegan, I'm thinking that they're doing minimal processing, and they're eating the whole fruits, high fruit and leafy greens, those massive salads and everything, and with their fats at their dinner salad at dinner time, and maybe their fats throughout the day in a smoothie too also. And they're just sticking to not cooking at all and not eating beans or grains or any of the legumes or grains, no pasteurization of juices or smoothies or anything like that, and definitely of course no cooking. That's how I see that's what I think when I see someone who says that they're raw. And then the more I look into that person who says that they're raw, I find out that they're including grains, they're including beans and legumes, they're including protein powders, they're including pasteurized juices and smoothies, they're including all these other powders and supplements and everything. So I know over the years I have definitely learned, and I have followed suit, I guess you could say, because I feel it for myself also, that it is actually a good idea to kind of go in that direction, because it is very hard to get the volume of produce in that's required on raw veganism, or just plants in general, really. And of course, I think it's the way we find it to be kind of so difficult in this day and age is because, well, our past is screwed up. Our past health, we screwed up our past health growing up, you know, their way of eating. And so adjusting to our natural way, it's going to take some time, more time than you actually think. And even then, you're still adjusting and tweaking things and everything. So and I totally understand that it's not it's nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect, and I truly believe that it is okay to go with your next best option, to go with those supplements, to go with those powders, to use a juicer, to use a blender, because it does help. And it's, I know for me personally, I did like fully raw the way I understood it, very minimal processing for like the first, just about the first year, not the whole first year, but by the end of the first year of being raw, I started using the blender and the juicer because it's hard to get that volume in. It really is. And eating high fat is hard. Eating high fat is hard too. I know for a lot of people, they're probably thinking, what, Miss Stace, what are you talking about? That's not hard. For me, it's hard. Okay, so my past, the past I came from, for my diet history is, well, I've mentioned it several times in my videos before, but like it was an exercising issue, over exercising, excessive exercising, and then high stress, and just it affected my eating habits to where I eventually kind of stopped eating. I mean, I was eating, but it was just very, very low amounts of food. And over time, it kind of caught up with me, and then it kind of lingers with me where I just don't really have an appetite. I mean, I do have an appetite, but not an appetite for so much volume of food. I'm a small bite eater. I like to eat just enough for myself, and I just want to be good. I just want to feel good, and I don't want to overdo it at all. And I just want to eat until I'm completely satisfied and done. And on plant foods, we all kind of know that you kind of can't do that. You kind of have to really tailor make your meals so you can give your body enough. So you can get it enough nutrition in, enough macros, the micronutrients, but also the macronutrients. And so for me, like I shared with you guys my recent diet shift, that's why I shifted from raw veganism after 6 years to more high raw, because even after 6 years, I mean, you guys can see it from my what I eat in a day videos. You can tell the ones that are posted on my channel that I've been posting throughout the years. You can see that it's actually very low amounts of food, because that's all I could get in at the time. And at the time, throughout the years, I was still trying to adjust to volume, and I was still trying. Of course, then I was classified as low fat, but I wasn't deliberately doing low fat. I just wasn't desiring fats. I wasn't desiring higher fat. I loved the fruit. I loved my veggie meals. I loved that. And so I naturally kind of was always on the low end for the fat. And so that had an effect on me also. So that's kind of what also led to my diet shift. And someone mentioned this to me, because I apologize, you guys, for not responding to all your comments on that video, because there's just too many comments. Way too many comments. I read everybody's comments. Thank you so much for your questions, your thoughts, your opinions, your input and everything. It's wonderful to get everybody's perspective. But I just decided not to respond to anybody, because it would take way too much time. So I kind of just let it be. I'll just let it be. And so, because if you guys have watched me long enough, you know that I respond to each and every one of you guys, and I don't leave anybody out. But I am kind of at the point where I'm at social media burnout, and it's just, it sucks up a lot of time, and I do this out of the love of my heart. I do it for free. I don't get paid for this. So I'm getting a lot of comments and questions to where I'm at the point where I can't respond to everybody anymore. I'm so burnt out. But just know that I do read your comments, and I do have you guys in my heart, in my mind, and everything too. And I respect you guys 100% fully and completely for your thoughts and opinions, and for watching my channel, my videos, and everything too. So I understand why these raw vegans, they still classify themselves as raw, because they're just kind of going to the next best option that helps a system to stay raw. And I totally agree with that. I think that's completely fine, because yeah, I agree with it, because it is hard to get it all in. It's hard to get it in, especially with the types of produce that we have available to us. I mean, for most of the people, it's really the lower calorie fruits, really, and there's not a whole lot of variety. So I think having that extra supplementation really helps, and I think it's totally fine. I think it's totally fine. But that's one thing I've learned though over the years, is that, you know what does raw veganism mean to you? Because it's different for everybody, even veganism, because there's people who are vegan, whole foods, plant-based, but they're eating, they say they're vegan, but they're eating vegan ice cream, they're eating cookies, they're eating chips, because all that stuff can be vegan, but it's really unhealthy vegan food, but yet they're vegan. So, but then you can have another vegan who eats just the whole food vegan, where they're cooking, they're just steaming potatoes or baking potatoes, cooking up some root vegetables, and then the rest of everything else is raw. And then that's, so there's some vegans who classify themselves like that. So what does your diet mean to you? Like, how do you classify your healthy diet? I definitely classify myself as high raw. I'm not going to classify myself really as raw vegan, because I am more high raw now, because I need smaller portions. I need more denser food that does have more of a higher protein content in it, and then a higher calorie content. Of course, that's the higher fat produce also. But I mean, that kind of dives into another issue, the protein issue. I know there's a lot of people out there who say protein's not an issue, but protein does become an issue if you're simply not eating enough. You can get everything from plant foods, no problem, but you have to be eating properly. Are you properly eating enough? And that's been my problem, is my past has fried the heck out of me, and it lingers with me, of course, and so it makes it very excruciatingly hard for me to stay raw, because I just can't get the volume in. I can eat raw, no problem. Like I can eat a fully raw, no problem at all. But then I start running into a really low, I'm just low on my macronutrients. I'm low on my macros, not my micros. My micros, I can easily get the vitamins and minerals in. It's just the macros are hard to get into, and I simply can't eat enough to get enough the macros in. I mean, you know what? You can tailor make. I can tailor make the meals, raw meals, high fat, high protein, or low calorie, or both ways. I can tailor make a raw meal, no problem, and throughout the day. But again, like I mentioned before, the question is, can you get all of that volume in a day? And that's where my problem lies, is I cannot get that volume in a day. I just naturally just don't really eat very much. And of course I know activity plays a big part in it, but even then your body still balances out with your activity level also. So that's why, for me, I agree with protein powders. I do agree with them to a point. I do agree with high fat to a point though. I do agree with cooked plant foods to a point though. And so, but that can be a whole nother talk, you know. But I just wanted to share that with you, or actually talk about that. And I would really like to know what you guys think. How do you guys classify your way of eating, or how do you classify, or what do you view a raw vegan diet? Because it's definitely different for everybody, because I see these long-term raw vegans that I really follow, I look up to, I learn from, and they say they're raw, but yet they're eating foods, they're eating things that are just, from what I've learned from the very beginning, aren't included in a raw diet, that you wouldn't really be eating naturally. So I've always been like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What are you doing? And then you're not high fat, but then you are low fat, and then no fat, and then you're eating high protein, you're eating protein powders, you're eating grains now, but yet you're still raw. It's like, I'm confused. I'm confused. And so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say, okay? So always, you guys, always remember to love being raw. Put a big old smile on your face today. I hope I did that for you, and I'll see you guys next video, okay? Bye, guys.